Jason, you started out this cycle not working for anybody, then you started out working, then you went to work for Shami briefly, wrote a story for the Tribune about being exited from the Shami campaign involuntarily, and then came back around to find yourself working for Kinky. I guess it would have been only more improbable if you had figured out how to work for Carol, right?
I suppose, but I've never been friends with Carol.
Right, but you had been friends with, you say you had a relationship with Kinky previously, so it's not,
Well,
as we now know, it's not that much of a leap of faith to think that you would go to work for him.
And he is a Democrat now, and there are certain things that...
A little conversation on Facebook about this today, and you made a very strong case that he wasn't a Democrat before, he is a Democrat now.
Yeah.
I did not want to work for him when he was not one. I'm willing to work for him when he is one.
Right, and I think that we should celebrate people that come to the party. You know, we're not such a... Texas Democrats aren't in such a great shape that we can kick people out as they're trying to get in the front door. And also, it was really David's movie that started this process back in last March at South by Southwest. He saw the movie, and he saw me up there saying things that he then had to admit were true. And later he called me and said, "Hey, let's get together. I'm thinking about running for governor. I really want you to work for me." I said, "That's a really great idea, except for the part about you running for governor." And Kinky, there are still some core Democrats who are upset at Kinky, but they're less upset if he's running down ballot than if he's running for governor. And I said, if you run down ballot,
Why is that?
running for governor is also a reflection of Texas. Governor is, it's a mythical office. We have an emotional attachment to Rick Perry as governor that we don't have to Susan Combs.
Right, but I'm still not getting why there's a distinction between it's okay for Kinky to run for ag commissioner, but it wasn't okay for Kinky to run for governor.
Well, it's okay for him to run for anything. I just think he's more viable down ballot. For the reason, he provokes less of a strong emotional reaction that accrues to not to his benefit for governor. Down ballot, people can start seeing him in a new context. It's pulling him out of the old context where people might be thinking about reliving 2006 in their head and putting him into a totally new context. And second, most Texans think Todd Staples owns an office supply company.
He does have good branding, actually.
Very great
Staples,
branding. Yeah.
right,
And I think Kinky Friedman is almost guaranteed to show up on election day with twice the name ID as a Republican incumbent. And I would hate to be a statewide office holder running against Kinky Friedman. And you've seen politicians, they like to hold on to dignity as if they can really hold it in their hands, and it's sand. And the good politicians are good at realizing the absurdity of the situation they're in. And I don't think Todd Staples is probably going to be one of those guys.
The gubernatorial candidate who ran as a libertarian is here, James Warner. Can we get him to ask the question? Sorry.
Thank you.
You ran in that race, James. You ran in that race.
I did. You and I spoke.
He was the fifth candidate.
Yeah, we did. I have terrible eyes. I'm just looking back. Oh, hey, how's it going?
Very well.
Good.
So I would take exception to one thing that Jason said, which was that every campaign is convinced at some point that it can win. I can testify to that.
James, you were not convinced? You didn't think so?
Absolutely not.
No?
Not for 1 minute. But I guess for Jason or Laura, what do you think, if anything, it will take to break the iron grip that what the libertarians call the two branches of the ruling party have on the political process? And is it going to be some sort of cataclysmic event, or could it be more organic and gradual?
Question is, what's it going to take for a third party to break the stranglehold that the Democrats and the Republicans have on the electoral process?
3 words, and then I'll let Jason take it from here. But in my opinion, it's campaign finance reform.
We have a winner-take-all system. If you get 50+1, the other guy goes home. In Europe, they have proportional representation, and they've got lots of parties. Until we have proportional representation in the Constitution, we're only going to have 2 parties.
Which is least likely at this point, given the Supreme Court decision that just came down? Campaign finance reform or proportional representation? I don't know which I would say would take longer.
Party.
Right. All right, before we open it up for questions, let me give David an opportunity to tell you, since we're here to celebrate his last film, about his next film. What are you working on next?
Well, I've got a movie that's going to premiere at South by Southwest next month. Maybe I shouldn't be saying that. I don't know if it's official yet or not.
That's okay. John Pearson doesn't talk to his wife, so I'm sure you're not. He won't bust you. It's fine. So go ahead.
It's called The Happy Poet. It's a fiction film. It's a comedy. It's about a guy who starts an organic, mostly vegetarian food stand, and his misadventures that ensue. And it's fun. I'm the producer. I'm not the writer-director, which is sort of nice.
Now, you're not off documentary, though.
I'm not off documentary. I'm also producing a documentary called America's Parking Lot about the Dallas Cowboys' new stadium and following this group of tailgaters from the old stadium to the new stadium and how their traditions and subculture work and don't work.